Hi, everybody. Rockin' Librarian here, and today we're going to be talking about the genre fantasy. So I went to the public library and I picked out a book that was very short for us to try to identify the fantasy story elements that make a story a fantasy. And then I'm going to point out some books you can check out off the Pamunkey Library Overdrive, as well as the school library catalog. So today's book is called Drawn Together. So I'm going to show you some anchor charts to help you with the genre fantasy, which you might want to search in the library catalog for a good fit book. So fantasy, it's a story that includes elements that are impossible, such as maybe talking animals or magical powers. And you see 3 examples on this card right here: Wrinkle in Time, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and Polar Express are 3 examples. In this anchor chart I created, it says elements you may find in fantasy stories. And you see I have some visuals on the page as well. We have Harry Potter. We have a flying unicorn Pegasus. We have a fairy in the bottom left-hand corner. Or, of course, hopefully you know whose shoes these are. Those are the Wicked Witch of the West from Wizard of Oz, which is a fantasy. Elements you may find are magic or magical things, talking animals, animals dressed in clothes, unrealistic animals like the unicorn or Pegasus, unrealistic events, usually in the past. The reason why I say the past is because if it's futuristic and maybe has some scientific things in there, then that might fall under the genre science fiction. Use this anchor chart as we're reading Drawn Together to identify the elements the author used that classifies this book as a fantasy. Ready? So I'm about to share the book with you. There is a great video of the author himself reading the book and talking a little bit about some details about him and his family and why he wrote this book on YouTube. So I'll link that onto the Bitmoji Classroom for you to see the author himself reading it and giving you a little bit more background about the story and his grandfather from Thailand. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see the book. I also had to look up how to say his name. Ming Lei is how you say it. So I thought that was, I had to look that up. Ming Lei is the author, and the illustrator is Dan Santant. He's a Caldecott winner. Remember, he won with the book Beagle. So one of my favorite books in the library, actually, in the easy section, the everyone section. So that's awesome. All right, so this is Melee himself, and this is his grandfather. Okay, so that gives us little tidbit information. On the spine, of course, we can find out where this book is. This is from the public library, but there it is. It's in the E section, and the first 3 letters of the author's last name. Of course, his last name only has 2 letters. So L-E, the author's last name, Lei. Of course, we can open up. Now, this one doesn't have a book jacket, but in his video, the ones with the book jacket, there's a secret behind the book jacket, which I thought was really neat. This one does not have a book jacket, to share that with you. All right, here's the title page. You know, sometimes a story begins before the first page. So there's stuff going on that we want to look about. Of course, this is the verso. This tells us what year this was written, and the copyright date right there says 2018. And there's grandparent pictures up there that both of the author and the illustrator dedicated this book to their grandfather and grandmother in the book. And it talks about the genre of the book. Now remember, we're trying to determine, we know this is a fantasy book, but what, at the end, I want you to give me supporting details of why it's fantasy. Of course, I picked a very easy book for us to read, to have a short book that we can make a video on and review the characteristics of fantasy. So as a reminder, we're looking for magic or talking animals or animals that are dressed as humans or mystical creatures like unicorns or Pegasus, things that kind of happen in the past not things that deal with technology in the future. That would be more science fiction. So we're looking for elements of fantasy. And again, this is a very easy book, so hopefully you can pick out some pages and support the reasons at the end why this book is in the genre of fantasy. Drawn together written by Ming Lei, illustrated by Dan Santat. Of course, here's the publisher, Disney publisher, or Hyperon, and they're located either in Los Angeles, their publishing company, or in New York. There you go. You have to read the pictures. Of course, what? I want to go back. What's the first thing we have to see here? So I'm sure you can all tell what's going on here. Young boy getting out of the mom's car. Mom's standing there. Boy walking towards this step over here. Yeah. Okay, young boy going up to the door, ringing the doorbell, and grandfather happy to see him joining in. Of course, the traditional Thai greeting of bowing. Okay, and then grandpa waving goodbye to his daughter in the car. Okay. Grandpa very excited to see him, of course. You could read his facial expressions, I hope. He doesn't look that thrilled, I guess. Like, I wonder what's going to happen now. Okay. Grandpa makes his traditional type of lunch, but he makes an American lunch for his grandson. Okay, and they're sitting there eating their lunch together. So what's new, Grandpa? And I found out from the video from the author that the grandfather responds in Thai back to him. Of course, you can tell he can't understand what he's saying. So now they sit in silence. The dot, 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 indicating, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. So they start watching a movie together, and there's a dragon on the TV screen. Grandfather looks over at the grandson, and something's going on. Again, in the video with the author, I found out that he's yelling dragon in Thai, so I thought that was kind of neat. And you could tell it's a TV screen by the little like lines in the TV. Okay. Grandson says, "Can we watch something else?" And the grandfather in Thai is asking, "Do you want to watch something else?" But they're not understanding each other. And they're both sitting there. Like, what do we do? I guess they're continuing to watch the same movie. Has the dragon in it. Okay. Little like, what's going on? Little things. Grandson walking away. Grandson grabbing his backpack and grabbing something to draw with. And the grandfather's like, kind of looks like a good idea. Of course, the grandson draws him as a superhero with a wand, a magic wand. And that kind of made the grandfather happy, it looks like. Maybe giving him an idea. So now the grandfather's going off and he looks happy. He's looking for something. He comes back with a book and something in his hand. And this looks like a paint stroke. Oh, there's a paintbrush. Of course, grandfather opens up his sketchbook and some black ink and some paintbrushes. Right when I gave up talking. Grandson's kind of looking over in awe. My grandfather surprised me by revealing a world beyond words. In a flash, we see each other for the first time. Of course, there's him and how he portrays himself, and there's their grandfather and how he portrays himself in an Asian type art with black ink and lots of detail. All the things we could never say come pouring out pouring out in artwork, their common ground, right? Beautiful Asian art back here. Very simple lines, simple colors. And we build a new world that even words can't describe. So now they're inside this world together. Everything they drew, and they're inside there together. Gorgeous. But just when we were closer than ever, tension's building. Look at his face. Ah! The grandfather looked worried on his face. He's falling down in that world they created together. Now they're split. They're two worlds. So it says, but just when we were closer than ever, that old distance. And of course, what do we see in the middle between the ground that separated them? And here's the grandson with his grandfather's paintbrush. Let's see if we can get that to focus. Grandfather's paintbrush. And on this side, the grandfather with the magic wand. That old distance comes roaring back. Of course, what's roaring at them now? That protagonist and antagonist. Here we go. So they're the protagonists, you know, and they have to fight against the antagonist, this gorgeous dragon that comes up in their world. Grandfather goes and grabs the magic wand, points the magic wand at the dragon. And his grandson, he's like, what should I do? And he grabs the magic paintbrush. This time I'm not afraid. And he holds up the magic paintbrush. Because I know that together, look at him, there's the grandfather, the grandson, crawling around in this world they created together. Because I know that together we can make our way across. Now, after years of searching for the right words, we find ourselves happily speechless. I love the Asian art back here and how detailed everything is. Beautiful. And of course, mom's happy to see the grandson. Look at that smile that he now has on the face. And the grandfather, and they give each other a big hug. And he's smirking over here in the car ride home. And look, he's holding grandpa's paintbrush. And grandpa's holding his marker. Oh, look at that. And driving away. How beautiful that is. So, drawn together, kind of a play on words, that title, Drawn Together. So, your job right now is to tell me, why is this a fantasy? What are the elements of the genre that make it a fantasy? Drawn Together. What elements did the author, Ming Lei, use in the book Drawn Together that makes it a fantasy? Question 2. The title can have a double meaning. What does the title Drawn Together mean? Question 3. What is a theme, lesson, or moral we can get from this story? Lastly, what is the author's purpose? Stop, explore, answer, then continue. Possible answers. What elements did the author Min Lei use in his book Drawn Together that makes it a fantasy? Maybe you wrote down the fire breathing dragon or the magical place that the grandfather and grandson came to, or the magical paintbrush the grandfather had, or the magical wand the grandson had. The title can have a double meaning. What does the title Drawn Together mean? Well, one, they drew pictures together. So they were drawn together, the pictures. It took two characters to draw the storyline. Or two, their drawings drew them closer as a grandma and grandpa and a grandson than anything else they've ever tried in the past. So I thought that title was really creative and clever there. What is the theme, lesson, or moral we can get from this story? Well, one theme maybe is that we don't need words to find common ground, that these two people found love with each other in a skill they both had, which was art. And the author's purpose was purely to entertain. Here are some examples of fantasy books that you might want to check out of the library. Willa in the Woods is a really good one. Of course, I read Wings of Fire, Castle Hangnail, Furry and Flow, Dragon Breath, and the Rainbow series. Now it's your turn to draw on the Asian artwork style to create your protagonist or antagonist for your next fantasy story, like Dan Santat did in the book here, Drawn Together. And if you recall from his drawings, they were very simple, just using really just some black ink and lots of detail. Here gave you some starters to get some ideas of some Asian artwork you might see, a dragon, a tiger. Anyway, have fun, happy drawing, and happy reading.